So anything that we think we have to have, that we think we have to do, the universe is saying to us, that think again, baby, think again. I got something else for you. You just got to be able to make it on the broken pieces until I take you to where you need to be. Hold on, you can make it on the broken pieces if you stop telling yourself stories that really aren't true about who you are and what it is that you need. Just hold on to this broken pieces that I've provided for you and stop being a terrorist.
All right.
You know, I go through the airport and they be looking up in my underwear. They ain't gonna find no terrorists in there. But if they could peek into my mind for 1 minute, they would see Al-Qaeda t-shirts on sale. Oh my God, can I terrorize myself? Oh my God, in my own head, I don't have to open my mouth. I just be sitting there looking pretty. And the terrorist attack is going on. Girl, look at him. Look how they're looking at you. What you gonna do? You know, well, wait a minute. You know you got that thing you gotta do. You gotta go there. Because that's the pathology. That's what we learn. Don't show your feelings. Don't talk about how you feel. Don't tell what's going on. Don't ask for help. Don't let nobody know. Blah, 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 blah. Crazy. So I've got all of this going on in my mind because I've lost my job and my relationship is falling apart. And whatever stories I had made up about that, forgetting to hold on to the broken pieces. Well, you know, if you insist on acting cute, instead of going somewhere and sit yourself down and have a good prayer and a cup of tea, life will just keep on coming. Okay, I got something for you, okay? Because you obviously ain't getting this. You need to sit down. I got something for you. So, September 11th, everybody knows that day because it was a big terrorist day in the world, which is really just a function of half the terror that goes on in our minds on any given day, you know. It diagnosed my daughter as having this very rare form of colon cancer. I knew then. I knew. But I just couldn't. I just couldn't know that. I just couldn't know it. I just couldn't know it. I couldn't know it. And I didn't want to know it. Because beyond Oprah and the books and the contract and the television and the fancy clothes and the shoes, in my heart, I'm just a mommy.
Amen. All right.
I'm just a mommy. And so, she was my best friend. Really. She's the reason I look nice, because she taught me how to dress. Not to mix my metals. And that I should never go shopping for a hookup. Only an outfit. Don't go buy no hookup, she used to say. So, for 15 months, I watched her fight for her life. And when you've been on Oprah and you've had your own television show and you've traveled to every country in the world, and when you have 8.6 million books in print, and when people recognize you in Walmart and Target and Sam's Club, and when you get letters from people telling them how you saved their life and how you've helped them, and when you've talked to people on the phone and they've told you how you've helped them, and when you've really given your life to God and asked God to use you as a vessel to help people all over the world, regardless of who they are and where they come from and what they do, and when you have some modicum of success in that area and you watch watch your child fight for your life, you just can't feel good about yourself. You just can't. Because I would have sold all of y'all down the river for a nickel to save my child. And that's a bad thought to have as a priestess and a minister, you know. It's really not helpful to sell your fans away like that. I really don't care. I don't care. I would take back every word I ever wrote, every soul I ever saved, every person that I ever helped, every TV show, every gown I've ever worn, everything I've ever, just to save my child. And so I had to affirm life with her because I was her mommy, and I had to affirm life for her despite what I knew, and I had to live in a place of dishonesty because I was her mom, and there was no way I could tell her what I knew that I didn't want to know. And so I stood with her for 15 months. And whatever she wanted to do, we did. And there were days when she was very, very mad at me, and days when she didn't like me much, and days when she was so clear about who she was and who I was and who she wasn't and who I wasn't, and she would speak it, and it was very, very hard for me to hear sometimes because I just wanted to save her life, and it was a fight she had to fight for herself. And so 10/18 Christmas morning 2003, she took her last breath in a house that she owned, in a bed that she bought, surrounded by people who loved her. And I realized in that moment that it was an answer to a prayer, because her prayer throughout it all was that she wanted to be closer to God. And whatever it was required for her to be closer to God, she was willing to do that. And when I heard her take that last breath, it's a breath that I've heard before, and it's, where it's just, I heard it when the 15-year-old got shot at my feet on 54th Street in Philadelphia because they stole his sneakers and shot him, and he fell at my feet, and I bowed down and I prayed with him, and I heard, and I heard it in the hospital when one of my students who was didn't make it through a very bad bout of leukemia, and I bent down to pray in her ear, and when she finished, I said, I finished. I heard her, and then on that Christmas morning, my Jamia, my precious jewel, my baby that I brought into the world said, it don't matter that you've been on Oprah in that moment. It don't matter that people love you all over the world in that moment. It doesn't matter that your husband left you for somebody that you know in that moment. If you are a mom or a dad or a grandma, it doesn't matter what you think you know in that moment. In that moment, you see, you know, you feel, you experience the presence of God. In that moment, there was so much peace. There was so much peace. There were 21 of us in the room, my entire staff, my husband, my best friend, and there was peace. Because because she lived her life in peace. Because she lived her life in love. Hers was a gentle passing, because even though I didn't know it at the time, I had broken many and passed on some of the pathologies of our family. So I pursued that peace. I buried my child. I was divorced by my husband. I lost my mind. I lost my mind. Thank God, because it wasn't working that well. It really wasn't. I lost my mind. I got into bed on January 4th after we buried her, and I stayed there until June. And in there, while I was in the bed, I read her diaries, her journals. I learned so much about her that I didn't know. I learned so much about me that I didn't know she knew. I learned so much about love and power. And I learned the importance of peace. So, when I got out of bed in June, I went to film Starting Over. Because I was starting over. And I saw every single of my family pathologies played out in those women. And I had an opportunity to be present with them in a different way. See, that's the thing. When you get the lesson, the opportunity again, do it different. Don't do the same stupidness. It's not helpful. Really, it isn't. So I had an opportunity with those women. Did any of you ever see Starting Over? Yeah, Kim and Jill and Jody and yeah, every single one of my pathologies. And I knew my time at Starting Over was over when I saw Rachel. Remember Rachel? Rachel was the one whose mother died. And she came to the Starting Over house and she didn't know her father. And I was very, very clear as soon as I heard the story, this is my granddaughter. This is my granddaughter. Her mother has died and she's not in good relationship with her father. This is my granddaughter and I have to know what to do with this. So in serving Rachel, I was real clear that I was serving my near moja. And once Rachel left, I knew my lesson was over and I could go. I could go back home because I needed to raise my granddaughter. And I needed to be sure that the pathology was not passed on to her. I needed to be sure that I was for her who nobody was for me. I had to be sure that the pattern, you see, my mother died and my mother's mother died. And now I had an opportunity to have a girl child whose mother had died and to be for her who nobody else had been in my line. That was my mission. And it didn't matter if I wrote another book or didn't, or did another TV show or didn't, or it didn't matter. None of that mattered. It didn't matter. It didn't matter that my husband was gone. It didn't matter. It didn't matter.